Hi, hello, welcome to class today. This is a beginner level practice and this is our fourth beginner class today. We have just a short number of classes left before we can put what we've learned together and actually provide a safe sequined practice. No, that sounds like you're going to be wearing sequins. A safe sequenced practice suitable for beginner level. We've gone through the props that you will need. So I hope that as we have progressed from one pose to the other, that you're aware of what you need and that you bring those and have them situated around you every time you push play for your beginner practice. So the way that we started in class 1 was with easy seated pose. In easy seated pose, we discussed sitting on blankets, leaning up against the wall, using support under the legs if necessary. You can sit on a bolster, you can sit on whatever you need that allows you to sit upright. The intention usually from an easy seated pose is to begin or close a yoga physical practice called an asana practice. And it's to allow the body to be comfortable enough that you can focus on the breathing, and at some point, if you choose, allow that to move you into either a breathing practice and or a meditative practice. So then we moved on to coming into tabletop position, which was coming onto all fours, and we did a little cat-cow in that just to kind of get the breath moving through the body. From there, we moved into our lunge. So we came into a lunge with one leg forward and the other leg extended behind you. And we went through modifications in that as well for knees and hands, wrists. And so today we're going to go into what's called child's pose. So child's pose, and I'm going to use a blanket because I like to have a blanket underneath my knees because that feels a whole lot better than just kneeling on the floor or on my mat. So child's pose, the intention of that position is a resting pose that helps to round out the lower back. So it's sitting all the way back on the heels, keeping that connection between the buttocks and the heels, letting the spine round forward, letting the forehead rest to the floor, and then the arms gently rest. The back of the hands are on the floor. There's a little bend in the elbows. My palms are turned up towards the ceiling. And the intention is to come into a place of quiet repose and gentle, easy stretch to the lower back. Okay, this pose, just like every other pose that we've gone through in the beginner series, is not necessarily easy or restful for people. And here's why. For one, if I don't have a blanket under my knees, it's going to bother my knees. So that's the first prop I'm going to offer to you, is having some support under your knees. Okay. The next one is keeping contact with your butt and your heels. Well, a couple things are going to get in the way of that. And one is how tight the top of the upper legs are, your quads. Okay. Because if they're too tight to sit back, they're either not going to lengthen enough to allow you to do that, or it's going to hurt the knees if you continue to try. Or maybe there's some other issue going on with the knees. And again, if any of these poses don't feel safe in your body, then they're just not for you at this time, and that is absolutely okay. Do not use your practice to punish the body. So if we just start with this relationship here between the buttocks and the heels and say that it's coming your pose is kind of coming back to back here, and you've got this space. So props that are offered in this situation are blankets. So the props again are to create space, to hold space between your body and wherever you need support. So that's either the floor or another body part. So blankets are a good way to support the body so that as you come forward, you're not asking so much of the front of the legs, and it should take pressure off of the knees, okay? And then from there, coming forward and down. And then you're here. So maybe that is all that your body needs in order to come into this pose so that it feels comfortable. But as you can see in this position, my backside is higher than my head. So now I can feel, it's more like an inversion, I can feel the blood rushing forward to my head. So I need to bring a little more balance into the body. So the way that I would do that is stack one arm on top of the other and then let my forehead rest on top of my wrists like so. And that brings a nice even sense to the body. Lots of people like to use a block instead. So if you've been watching these classes, you know that I'm a fan of the cork blocks, which are more dense. In this type of situation, I do prefer a foam block because it's softer. Do you have to use a block? Do you have to go out and buy a block? Nope. I'm on all my blankets. Another thing that you could use instead of a block is another blanket. Yay! And guess what's so great about a blanket? You can roll it soft, and you can make it as high as you need it to go. Okay? Like so. But let's say you're here, but then you're feeling like you have this support, but you're still kind of hanging out in midair because your head is supported, your bottom side is supported, but you don't really feel that supported. So a bolster comes in handy, and I'm putting the short end of the bolster up against my knees so that now when I come down, feel like I've got more support under the upper body overall, okay? All right, so that's a couple tricks right there. So we can use blankets, we can use bolsters. From the buttocks to the heels, you can also place a bolster underneath you, like so. And then folding forward again, okay? Another thing that you can also do with the hands is stack one fist on top of the other, and then let the forehead rest on top of the fists as well. Okay, so the intention is simply to take some pressure off of the knees by not asking for so much lengthening to come from the top of the thighs. It's also good if the knees feel arthritic and are not able to bend as much. Okay? Or it may just simply be that this pose is not for you. And that's okay too. There are many poses that are just not good for my body. Okay, so when you're coming into this position, okay, for the most part, you have transitioned from somewhere else. So it could be that you transition from an all fours position. It could be that you just did a bunch of lunges and then you're coming back and you're stretching back towards your child's position. It could be that you started seated and then you went straight into your child's pose. for that low back stretch. Okay, but let's say you're going into child's pose, your knees are behaving, and it feels okay for you to bring your forehead down to rest upon something, your hands, block, blanket, bolster, but maybe the belly is what's the issue, and the belly is going to keep you, when you come forward, from giving you the room that you need in order to continue that forward fold. Well, there's a very easy solution for that. All you'll do is simply take the knees wider. You'll keep the big toes touching, but the knees are wide. And this gives a belly more room to come forward and drop. And the same thing as you come forward again, if you need, you can have the knees wide and still use the props between the buttocks and the heels and underneath the forehead. Okay. And if all else, and if all of those props and that pose is simply not for you, whatever the teacher says, this is your practice and this is your class, and they don't know your body, they're not in your body, they can't tell you this should feel great on your lower back, because sometimes, and for several people, it simply does not. If you have the ability to get on the floor, roll on onto your back, you'll get on your back, and look, same thing. I'm in child's pose, but now I'm on my back. So you have this option as well. And you can always support underneath your forehead again. If the back of the head underneath your forehead, that wouldn't offer much support on your back. You can put some support under the back of your head. And hold on to the legs if you'd like. You could even take that bolster and kind of let that bolster hold the legs for you. Hold the legs in place. So child's pose has a lot of different options to it in order to make it a little more comfortable, to help with knees, to help with hips, to help with bellies. And any of the other props that you've used for poses, especially when you were in your tabletop pose, like maybe it's the front of the ankle that doesn't want to stretch, then you can put that roll underneath the front of the ankles when you're in here in your child's pose. Now, some people offer an extended child's pose. Again, you can include all of the props that we've already gone through. Extended child's pose, what's extending are the arms. And some people prefer that. So even when I've taught and I'll cue to come into child's pose, this is what I see a lot of. So for several people, that hurts the very top of the shoulders. Okay, so you're getting into that bone-on-bone compression, okay, which is different than if you feel a stretch right here, okay? It will literally feel like it's right at the top of that shoulder joint. So sometimes when you're lying down, okay, you can take the arms wide. They don't have to be stretched in front. Okay. Sometimes an external rotation of the shoulders helps. So an external rotation, if I am sticking my arm forward, okay, and then I start to roll it in as much, and different people have different levels of rotation in the shoulder. But this is I'm internally rotating my shoulder. And this is I'm externally rotating my shoulder. So that external rotation provides a little more room at the very top of the shoulder joint. So when you're coming into your child's pose, if you would like to add that extension, you can do it with zero pain, then great. You can externally rotate the shoulders and reach them forward. You can bring the arms wider, wider, wider. You can bend at the elbows. If there's some position that you like to take with the arms instead of in that first position that I showed you when we began the practice, then all of that is available to you. So that was our child's pose for today. I hope you enjoyed class, and I'm proud of you for showing up. So please close the eyes for a moment. Take a nice full deep breath in and sigh it out. Good. And as you breathe, offer gratitude for all that supports you. And as you breathe, feel your strength. Acknowledge your beauty. Honor your truth. And the light within me bows and honors the light within you, which in a word is namaste. So namaste. Thank you very much for class.